Welcome to the Gut Show. I'm Erin Judge, registered dietitian and founder of Gutivate, and I will be your host. My goal on this side of the internet is to empower those with IBS and digestive disorders to understand their guts better, to have a healthier relationship with their bodies, and make confident choices to improve their digestive health. During this season of the Gut Show, you can expect a weekly conversation covering a hot topic related to health, digestion, and IBS. As a disclaimer, I am a dietitian, but I'm not your personal dietitian. Everything we cover in this episode is meant to be educational and not a substitute for personalized care from your healthcare team. Welcome, and let's dive into today's episode. Are you looking for science-backed holistic care for IBS all at your fingertips? If so, the Master Method membership is for you. I get it. I've been in your shoes, dealing with symptoms every single day, accepting them as normal, but knowing there's gotta be more than this. Maybe you find yourself searching through Google and social media and trying all of these isolated tips to figure out what is the secret to your symptoms, only to end up more frustrated and completely stuck. Something that I've learned as someone who lived with IBS myself, but also in over half a decade of experience working in IBS, is that oftentimes people miss the holistic approach to managing their symptoms. Meaning they focus on one isolated thing versus focusing on the full puzzle to get true results and sustainable results. The Master Method membership was created to help solve this problem by walking you through one step at a time, guiding you through how to put this puzzle together for your body. Not only will you learn what's causing your symptoms and how to keep assessing what's going on in your body, you will also learn how to manage your symptoms, how to support your overall health with nutrition, and even how to change different habits and things in your life to give you more energy, more flexibility, and a higher quality of life. Not only that, but you also will be able to connect to other members in the membership through Club MM, our private community. Our founding membership is now open, but closes on May 31st and won't be back until later this year. So if you are interested in getting control and getting guidance right now, then go to the link in show notes to join the membership. Welcome back to the Gut Show. Today's episode is all about self-care. Now, I hope that if you tune into the podcast often, and even just tuning in today, that feels like a form of self-care. But we're going to talk a little bit more about what self-care truly is and some other ways of thinking about it, maybe some new perspectives, especially around IBS and gut health and health in general. And maybe we'll change your mind on that question of, is this considered self-care, or what does self-care really mean to you? So the definition of self-care is the practice of taking care of yourself in order to maintain physical, mental, and emotional health. So self-care is not just about taking a bath, or it's not just about the external or what you think it should be. The purpose truly is about taking care of yourself in order to maintain health and all versions of health, not just physical health, but mental health, emotional health, and we can also even consider social health as part of that as well. The goal of self-care should be to promote well-being and improve overall quality of life. That's a really good kind of gauge to determine if what you're doing is truly a form of self-care or not, to see if, is this activity, is this thing that I'm participating in, is this thing that I'm spending my time focused on, is this actually promoting well-being in my life and or improving the quality of my life. And improving physical, mental, emotional well-being and health can improve quality of life. And that's how this should progress. Sometimes what we think maybe in the short term could possibly improve quality of life may actually not in the long run, right? It may be more of a temporary coping mechanism. It may be more of a temporary kind of short-term satisfaction. And so think about that more on a long-term basis of, if I'm doing this week after week after week, or even day after day, am I having better well-being? Am I having an improved quality of life? Do I feel more satisfied? Do I feel more joy? Do I feel happy in my life? Do I feel content? All of those markers of life and quality of life. Often self-care is going to be the response to self-compassion and intuition with your body. The goal would be that self-care follows self-compassion, because self-compassion is needed for true, like deep, true kind of quality self-care. If you're not familiar with self-compassion, we've talked about that a lot on the podcast and on all of the platforms that I'm on and educate on, because it matters a lot to me personally. It's been part of my own story, but self-compassion is also something that I've seen work really, really well and be a game changer for IBS patients. So if you're not familiar, self-compassion involves treating oneself with kindness, with care, and with understanding, even in the difficult and stressful situations. It involves recognizing that everybody experiences suffering and setbacks, and that is a normal part of life. And it also involves these three components: self-kindness, which means being, again, kind and understanding towards oneself, being kind to oneself versus being self-critical or being self-judgmental or hard on oneself. The self-kindness piece recognizes that we all make mistakes, recognizes that we all have shortcomings, we all have flaws, but we still treat ourselves with care and with compassion rather than with criticism or harshness. The second pillar is common humanity. And this is the piece where we recognize that suffering and setbacks are a normal part of life and everyone experiences them. The goal is not to downplay your experiences or say, oh, well, everyone else is doing this, so you should get over it. Like, that isn't compassion, right? Common humanity is meant to more so help you feel like you're not alone and that you're not at the bottom of the pit like you feel like, right? Sometimes whenever we're experiencing suffering or something's going on in life, it can be easy to think, this is only happening to me. I'm isolated. I'm lonely. I'll never get out of this, right? But whenever we recognize common humanity, that, wait, this is a part of life, one, we can more easily accept that that's what we're going through to then begin to work through it, or even just accept it to allow there to be time for things to improve on their own, which often happens. And it allows you to realize that you're not alone in that, and that there are other people experiencing these things, which can take you away from a place of isolation and take you more into a place of community to where you can actually get support and encouragement that you may need. And then the third pillar of self-compassion is mindfulness. This means being present in the moment and accepting your thoughts and your emotions without judgment. So mindfulness is not just about the presence of environment when it comes to self-compassion. That is a form of mindfulness that is great. Like, it's good to be present in your environment and present in your life. But mindfulness with self-compassion means being present in yourself and recognizing with honesty and with vulnerability, but also with safety, the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, everything that you have without judgment. And that's really important. So this can be like observing your experiences without trying to change or fix them, and just acknowledge and accepting them as they are. Even if you are working on maybe bettering them, it's not like this is a wrong part of me or something I need to punish, but instead, like, this is just who I am. This is what is going on in my mind. This is how I feel. And I'm not going to try to change that right away, but I'm going to acknowledge that it is the truth. And what that can do is allow a lot more freedom in your life, because whenever you are holding things inside, and I'll bring an example related to IBS that we see a lot. There's a thought of, I wish I had a different body, right? I'm frustrated with my body. I am ashamed of my body, and I wish I had a different body. And if you have that thought or that feeling and you don't acknowledge it, right? Because maybe you feel it's like, oh, that's bad, cover it up. That's bad, cover it up. That's bad, cover it up. It's still there. And what happens is, whenever it's still inside of you and isn't acknowledged, it'll grow and grow and grow and grow. And the fruit of that is going to look like self-sabotage. It's going to look like kind of punishing your body. It's going to look like talking down to your body. It's going to result in actions that are not serving you and are the opposite of self-care. And so the flip side would be recognizing it and say, I do think this. I do wish that I had a different body, and I accept that that's the thought that I have because of the experiences that I've gone through. And simply acknowledging that can help you then say, okay, I do acknowledge that. I also am going to choose to not judge myself for not acknowledging it, right? Not judge myself for thinking it, because it makes sense, right, that I feel that way. And then I'm going to focus on taking care of myself anyways. And it gives you that freedom of choice, even that holding things in really doesn't give you, like, you think you have a choice. It's like, oh, I'm pushing it down. And whenever I push it down, like, it can't take over my life, but it really is still taking over your life without you consciously getting to choose how it takes over your life. So when we're thinking about self-care should flow from the practice of self-compassion. Self-care should be a form of care and compassion and kindness to your body. And self-care should result in improved health in some way, as well as improved quality of life. So when we're thinking about what self-care actually is and thinking about the practical side of it, self-care can often be the routines and the daily non-negotiables that your body needs. This is actually where I recommend starting when we're thinking about developing a self-care practice, or even thinking about the idea of self-care for IBS or for health in general, is we have to think about the daily, right? What are the routines? What are the non-negotiables? What are the things I know that my body needs? And these may be things that you're drawn to, that you're like, oh yes, I love doing that. They may be things that you don't actually love doing, but when we're able to shift to the perspective to that thing being a form of self-care out of a place of self-compassion, and then recognizing the value of that routine or that habit, because when you do treat it as self-care, it results in better quality of life, it results in better health, then you're able to have the motivation to continue doing that thing, even if you don't necessarily love it. So some examples of what this can look like are sleep. And that's a big one, like going to bed early. Sometimes it may feel like the self-care choice is to stay up late, right? Because, oh, I want to watch the show a little bit longer, or, oh, I didn't have a lot of time for myself today, so I'm going to give myself more time right now. And that may feel like in the moment the thing to do, but when we recognize that sleep and going to bed, getting enough quality as well as quantity of sleep is actually going to make you feel more refreshed the next day. It's going to help your body, recover from the day and prepare for the next. It's going to help circadian rhythms, right? That are going to help you with the stress resilience. They're going to help you with your bowel movements. They're going to help with everything else that's going on. Whenever you recognize that, the choices can lean you more towards, well, if I'm practicing self-compassion, if I'm practicing true self-care, then going to sleep is actually the better choice. And that's going to result in these improvements I'm looking for, versus staying up late to give myself this extra time I didn't get during the day. That may leave you feeling groggy the next day. That may make you feel more irritable. That may make your gut symptoms more severe and more pronounced. And so that actually doesn't lead to the outcome that you're looking for. Another example is eating. And that can feel like a silly thing to think about, but eating consistent meals is a form of self-care, especially when you are having symptoms and you are maybe tempted with the idea to not eat, or you're busy and you have a lot going on and you're tempted with the idea of just like skipping and just kind of getting through your day or waiting until later. Truly, like, nourishing your body with meals and with snacks, that is a form of self-care. Now, what you eat can also be a form of self-care, right? And that can change based on the moment and the day and what else is going on. But simply eating itself can be a form of self-care. When we shift that perspective, it can also make those meals much more enjoyable, right? Because there's a lot more meaning to that time. There's a lot more purpose to that lunch break that you're taking, instead of, oh, well, if I worked, through lunch, then I could possibly go home earlier. Instead of thinking about it that way, thinking about it as, I have an opportunity to care for my body, to care for myself, to practice self-compassion in this moment, and in the middle of the day before I even get home after the workday is over. So that's a huge one. Hydration is another big one. That's, drinking enough water. And that one can also be one that often gets missed. But when your body's hydrated, your cells are happier, right? You may have less fogginess in your brain. You're going to feel better. You may have more energy. And so again, that quality of life and the health promotion side of it is the outcome, meaning that is a true form of self-care. And then hygiene is also one. And this one is one that I think we do sort of think about, but I think often we forget that poor hygiene could be a form of self-sabotage, which is truly the opposite of self-care, where we're either doing things that we know are actively going to hold us back, or we're not doing the things that we know we need for our body to function well and for us to feel our best, right? And so if you are neglecting taking a shower or washing your hair, or you don't have to wear makeup or be styled or have your hair done every single day, but even taking that extra step of brushing your hair out and presenting yourself in a way that you feel the most confident, like that is a huge form of self-care. Brushing your teeth, flossing your teeth, all of those different things, those are forms of hygiene that can be a huge form of self-care, and an easy place to start kind of either tweaking your perspective or tweaking your kind of intention and your priorities so that you can start to see the results of that. And even though these are not forms of self-care that are the most sexy, right? They're not going to make you feel like, oh, I'm loved and adored, or I feel, refreshed completely. But whenever you are doing these things and you shift that perspective, you are going to start to notice that your relationship with your body improves, right? Because whenever you are punishing yourself with these self-sabotage behaviors or skipping out on these things, then you're kind of chipping away at the relationship you have with yourself. Your body's not going to trust you to take care of it, and you're not going to trust your body either, right? Because you're chipping away. Just like if you were insulting a friend every single day and getting in their way, tearing them down, that friendship is not going to last very long. The same is true with your relationship with yourself. And so these are things that you can do that will have a payoff for you, and that will also begin to kind of rebuild some of that relationship with yourself if you're not quite there yet in terms of accepting your body, being kind to your body, all of those different things. So once you have done kind of those daily non-negotiables, then you might start to build in the kind of essentials of what you need based on what's going on in your body. So this is where more of the intuition may fit into the picture. And this is where you may incorporate movement as a form of self-care, and that may be to help with mental health, that may be to help with physical health. If you are noticing that you have, more gut issues, like maybe you choose like a yoga flow or something mind body that is going to help with reducing symptoms. Or if you are dealing with some constipation or sluggishness and you choose more of a walk or some jogs to help kind of move things along, your form of movement could possibly be a form of self-care based on what you need. Now, this can easily switch into self-punishment. And so the intention behind these things that you add really does matter. The intention that you're bringing into it, again, it should be from a place of self-compassion. So if you notice that you're beating yourself down or you're punishing yourself with the thing that you're doing, that's not true self-care, and that's something to check. Mindfulness routines and checking in, kind of more of the mental health side, can be a form of self-care, like journaling, meditation, visualization exercises, breath work, anything that's going to help like steady your mind, connect you to your body, connect you to your environment, connect you to your thoughts and your emotions so that you can practice that, acceptance and honesty and vulnerability with yourself. That is a huge form of self-care because it improves mental health and could also then improve physical health. And rest is also a huge piece of this. And rest is usually where the sexy forms of self-care may come into play. And this is where we think about, okay, how do you feel rested? How do you feel relaxed? When do you feel rejuvenated? And rest for one person may look like just sitting on the floor in silence. Rest may look like watching your favorite TV show at the end of a long day. Rest could look like taking that warm bath with the candles and, the bubble bath or the bath salts or something like that. Rest could look like going to get a massage or going to a sauna. It could look like going out to, a meal with your friends and having some of that social time, or going on a date night. That may be a form of rest because it rejuvenates you. It makes you feel maybe joy. You feel relaxed. You feel calm. You feel like you've released some of that tension. It doesn't always have to look like what we think rest has to look like, right? We have to rethink about it in a way that is more personal. And that's where thinking about it in yourself of what really makes me happy, like what really makes me feel calm and content and grounded and rested. That's what you want to lean into with your self-care. If you're doing things just because you think that they should work, but they don't, and they don't lead to those outcomes that we've talked about, then you may be missing the point and wasting your time, right? You don't have to take the hot bubble bath with the candles if that's not resting to you. Maybe reading a book is what's restful for you and you prioritize that time. Maybe it's playing an instrument, or again, it's going for a walk or playing with your dog. Like, think about what it looks like for you. And then once you identify those things and you know that you've met your non-negotiables, right? You know, you've met what your body needs to function well. And then you've been able to kind of start building in these essentials that your body needs based on its specific needs. Then you're able to really hone in on the things that matter the most. And then once you've identified the things that matter the most, think about where they fit. Self-care is not going to be something that happens automatically. Self-care is going to be something that you have to choose and prioritize, because if you don't, even if it is the best thing for you, right? Even if it is the thing that's going to make you feel the best, it's going to be the most joyful, you love it the most, that doesn't always mean that you're going to go for it. Because when life gets busy, when things come your way, when self-doubt hits you, when symptoms hit you and that kind of pulls you down, then those are usually the first things to go, even though you know that they work. And so thinking about how to make them fit is important. And this is where motivation really comes into play. So motivation to care for yourself can often go away when you're experiencing a disconnect to yourself, when you're experiencing rumination, when you're experiencing increased anxiety or depression, when you have feelings of guilt and shame. These are all things that can disconnect you from yourself and disconnect you from kind of that motivation to take care of yourself and do what you need to do. In these cases, self-compassion can be such a valuable tool, and kind of leaning into self-compassion actively can really help. You can also use extrinsic motivators and lean on those as much as possible. So an extrinsic motivator is outward. Intrinsic are the internal motivators. That's you feeling the draw to it, or I'm motivated by myself. So I'm going to choose to do this and nothing's going to stand in my way, right? That's what we would love to have, but sometimes you do need to lean into extrinsic motivators when the intrinsic are being disconnected. And that could look like having an accountability friend, like someone else holding you accountable. That may look like, maybe like I sign up for workout classes through an app, and if I don't cancel within 12 hours, then I get charged a fee, and that charged fee could be an extrinsic motivator to keep going, to make yourself like, okay, I don't really want to do it, but like I'm going to get up and go do it because I don't want to pay this fee, right? There are different extrinsic motivators that you can lean into that may help. It can also help to lean into this idea of choice. Sometimes the motivation is, I want this and I'm excited about it, I'm drawn to it. And there's less of that like discipline piece, right? But choice is a discipline. And one thing that can really work, and I encourage clients to do this all the time, of like take a sticky note or something, put it on a mirror, put it somewhere you would see it every single morning. And just writing the simple words, if I choose to take care of myself, and holding that responsibility for yourself is really important. Now, again, this needs to come out of self-compassion, because if not, discipline can easily turn into self-harm. It could turn into self-sabotage. So it's not always a good thing. So you have to know where the intention's coming from. But when you shift to, this is my choice, and I am choosing to do this, and I have the responsibility to make this choice, and I also know that the choice I make results in an outcome. And so taking responsibility, not beating yourself up, but taking responsibility for the choices that you make. This one's a hard one. And I would say this is one that you lean into when the relationship with yourself has been repaired significantly, when your self-compassion skills have gotten strong. Like, this would be kind of more an advanced skill, I guess we could say. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but it's not something I'd recommend on day one. And if you feel like, oh, I can't do that, like that, I definitely do not connect to that, then know that that's okay, right? Because you're on the journey towards that. And one day you're going to get there, and that'll be great. But if you're not there yet, that's okay. Find the other opportunities to lean into things. Maybe it is with the extrinsic motivators, putting it on your calendar and scheduling it, whatever you need to do. Some other ideas of things that can kind of help keep you on track, like I mentioned with your calendar, are things like checklists or sticker charts, or even menus that you can choose from. Something sort of physical can help. I had a client once in a program that I led who she created a sticker chart, kind of like we have when we were kids, where you do a chore and you put the sticker on, and simply being able to give herself the sticker, just like in her childhood, like it gave her a lot of joy, right? There was a lot of satisfaction with that. And when the sticker was missing, like it was there, right? And so it was really motivating to be able to put the sticker on. And so even something like that, that seems so simple, can be so impactful when you're building any habit, but especially whenever you're trying to build in self-care. It is a lie. It is a big lie that self-care will always be intuitive and feel natural. And so if you've believed that and you've been waiting for that, it's a lie. You're never going to, develop self-care simply from just intuition or just this natural, it's just going to happen. Like that doesn't work. That's not true, right? And if it is true, it's true for a short amount of time. It's not sustainable. And so finding ways to motivate yourself is so, so, so important. Now, if you've listened to this and you've been thinking about it and all you can think is, I have no time for self-care, there's no way I can build any of these things in. I'm going to have a little tough love with you for a moment. That means that your routines and your schedule are not working for you. That also means that your perspectives need to shift, right? Because again, self-care does not always look like the fancy taking up time things. Self-care means eating breakfast. Now, what you eat for breakfast and what convenience you need to be able to eat breakfast, that's going to be personal to you. And so that's where you, again, have to take responsibility for it. But the perspective shift alone isn't going to take up more time in your day. It's going to instead shift the way you think about things so that the things that you are doing each day, or that you can be doing and you need to be doing to function, right? That is going to help be the care that you need, right? That is going to be your self-care. And then if you really just can't do any of those things, your body is not going to last. Right? Your body's not going to be able to keep doing the things it's doing day after day after day after day if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating, if you're not hydrated. Like those are really important things. And there's a privilege to be able to say like, oh, just change your schedule. But there are usually little things that we can do. And if you can't find those things, start reaching out for support from the people that you do trust or that can provide that for you, right? Because that is really important. And I want to see you live a long life. I don't want to see you burn out of your life too quickly because there was never an opportunity to start making those little shifts. And it may be one small thing at a time. If you are not really sure where to begin with that, you can map out what you do every single day. Keep like a time log of your day and then start to look at that map maybe a day or two later. So give yourself that ability to be out of your day and start to think about where you can build in different self-care, starting with those non-negotiables, then moving into your essentials of what you need and what can be personal for you. Sometimes, again, it just is the perspective shift that you need, and that can be the game changer. Thank you for listening to this conversation. I'm really excited to hear what you think about it or even see what you do for self-care. I want to cheer you on. So take a picture, video, like share what you're doing that you are considering self-care or how you're making that perspective shift. And please share it with me on social media at erinjudge.rd. It's in the show notes if you're wanting to do that. But I would love to see it. And again, cheer for you. And I hope that if anything, this conversation just opened up one new perspective change, or just one new idea where you can take better care of yourself and again achieve the bigger goal, which is more quality of life, a longer life, a more full life, a more connected and joyful life that you deserve. Have you enjoyed these deep dive conversations on these specific topics that overlap with digestion and IBS and other digestive disorders or conditions? If so, then you may love the Gutivate blog. On our blog, we have broken down topics ranging from actual management strategies for different symptoms, overlapping conditions, and also some of these less talked about topics that a lot of our patients and those in our community have brought up and have wondered about. So if you like to read different topics, see different sources, and just get a new perspective on these varying topics, then you want to check out gutivate.com/blog.